I'd like to call a meeting to order for Monday, October 7th, 2019. Please rise for the pledge. Mr. Baltimore, lead us in prayer.
Father in heaven, we come thanking you for another beautiful day. Lord, we ask your blessings upon everyone that's here tonight, and we just ask that you continue to bless this city and allow us to be able to prosper. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a roll call. Please show all present here tonight. Mr. Recorder. Next item on the agenda, approval of minutes. I entertain a motion to approve the minutes of September 16th, 2019.
So moved.
Motion from Willie Cole. Is there a second? Second from James Baltimore. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next item on the agenda, unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business? Next item, new business. Under new business, we have two notices of public hearing, A and B. The first one, these are notices of public hearings that will occur at the next board meeting on October 21st, 2019. The first is amending the current beer ordinance, Title 8, Chapter 2 of the Dyersburg Municipal Code. And the second notice of public hearing is amending the current excavations and cuts ordinance, Title 16, Chapter 2 of the Dyersburg Municipal Code. This was discussed in the local government committee meeting, approved at that meeting. Notice has been sent to the paper, was actually in the paper, I think, on Friday as far as the first notice. And this is the notice to the public. So I'd entertain a motion to approve both of these notices for the public hearing to be held on October 21st, 2019.
So move.
Motion from Mary Claire Hopper. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ricky Hammond. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next item of business is C. This is a public hearing. Ordinance BB 694, an ordinance amending the Dyersburg municipal zoning map by rezoning property located on Phillips Street, Tibb Street, and Harold Avenue. CM Partners Dyersburg LLC property from B2, General Trade and Services District, to R3, High Density Residential District. This came before the Planning Commission, was approved at the Planning Commission. We also called for notice of public hearing in our last board meeting, which was approved, and this is a public hearing tonight to take up this rezoning of this area. All the information is in your packet. I think Thomas sent out an email explaining the difference between the two zones. Kevin is here if there's any questions about that. And at this time, I'd entertain a motion to get it on the floor to discuss, if there's any discussion. Have a motion from James Baltimore. Is there a second? Second from Coach Cole, Willie Cole. Any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next item on the agenda, Cemetery Committee meeting minutes from September 19, 2019. Chairwoman Megan Gilbert. Megan?
Yes, this was the first time that the cemetery committee met, so we appointed a chairman, which is me. And then we went over, we had Mr. Horner and Mr. Hill present, and they brought the indigent burial policy to our attention. And so we reviewed that and found it to be out of date, and so put a motion in place to update that to allow for markers on those veteran graves, regardless of indigent status. We also went over a few other topics. Let's see. We went over doing the blowing of the leaves, doing that towards the road so that the street department can pick it up. We also discussed, thinking of a way to put this, having too many things around grave headstones, which is causing difficulties for the staff. And so we addressed that, and we also, Scott Ball brought it to our attention, the need for an expansion at one point, and so we are having additional land reviewed.
Okay, I think from that meeting, there were a couple of motions made, so we'll need to, the board will need to act on it. First would be to revise the indigent burial policy. I'd entertain a motion to do that.
Motion.
A motion from Ricky Hammond, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mary Claire Hopper. Any discussion about that?
Mayor, will you allow Ms. Megan to tell us, that there are VA, the marker's gonna be VA markers? It wouldn't be a personal marker. So a lot of citizens may not know and they may try to bring a personal marker in there, and it would be only a VA marker for the incident. Incident?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
I just want to make sure everybody know that, okay?
Okay. Any more discussion? Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. And also Megan mentioned about the study about additional land for the cemetery. The committee did vote on that. I'd entertain a motion to allow for that study going forward to expand the cemetery. If somebody'd like to make a motion to do so.
So moved.
Motion from Dennis Moody, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Vanetta. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. I think that's all that the committee voted on. Is that correct?
Yeah, there were some things on there about she mentioned, and the citizens may want to know this. We're talking about putting things around the grave, and can you kind of just let them know a little bit about what?
There's already a policy established, and I think the committee just agreed to follow the policy that's already established. And we're gonna put
Extra flowers
Right.
and things of that nature, they'd have to, I think that's what we're talking about, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, there's a time frame, and we'll make sure everybody knows that it is and revisit. Again, there's also signage
Right.
at the cemetery when you pull in, so we'll do that.
We just want to make sure, because somebody may come up and not know exactly what we're talking about, and it create a problem for y'all.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda, local government committee meeting minutes from October 2nd, 2019. Chairwoman Mary Claire Hopper.
The local government committee met Wednesday, October 2nd at 8 a.m. at McIver's Bluff Library. There were three important items on the agenda. The first was to revise beer ordinance. Scott Haight presented the history of the current ordinance, and after discussion, the committee approved the revision for presentation to the full board on a motion made by Alderwoman Webb and seconded by myself. The second was brought to our attention about the gun club lease and ordinance by Mr. John Utendahl, and he spoke to the committee regarding the lease between the club and the city of Dyersburg. Mayor Holden noted that the new lease agreement will assist the gun club in future applications for applicable grant funding to enhance the club in its operation. After discussion, the motion was to approve the lease. And the third item on the agenda was the right-of-way management ordinance. Mayor Holden presented historical reasons for the purpose of this ordinance and how the ordinance would make it mandatory for anyone who bores within the city of Dyersburg to come into City Hall to receive a permit. The concerns were regarding contractors coming to the community unknown to us, and they begin to bore, lay cable, pipe, fiber. The city is not aware of the presence of the construction activity until the contractors damage the city utility lines. The city is often at times encumbered to recoup some of these funds from various companies who have caused damage. So after discussion, the motion was to approve the ordinance, and it passed by the committee. And that is all I have.
Okay, so two of those we will take up on October 21st, the beer ordinance and also the excavation and cuts ordinance. And I would think the only motion we would need would be the gun club lease. There was one thing that John Utendahl asked us to include in the lease agreement, which is a statement that says it's been occupied by the tenant since 1965. And I do have the updated lease agreement. That was the only thing that I'm aware of that was required. Also, John has brought me the copy of the insurance that names the city as additional insured based on the parameters of the lease agreement, and I have that. And I can get copies to each of you if you want that, but I do have that. So at this point, I would entertain a motion to approve the lease, the gun club lease.
So move.
A motion from Mary Claire Hopper, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Edward Burks. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, bids. Greg Williams, I think that was attached as well. Let me find it. There's one bid that's been awarded. That's for Jenny Bell School. The demolition of the building was budgeted at $150,000. Notification given to the State Gazette and 2 plan rooms. Lowest bidder was Goolsby General Contractors, $133,669.30. The bid was awarded to them. They're from Blytheville, Arkansas. They will have 45 days to complete the demolition. They're gonna start next Monday. We met with them today and signed the notices to proceed and all the other documents that we need to execute. So that will start next Monday.
Have we used them before? Do you know anything about them? I know they're quite a bit less on their bid than the other two. Kind of concerns me sometimes, but y'all are comfortable with them?
We are, and I'll let you know what they told us today, that they own property over here, and they really wanted to get this bid because they're gonna use the demolition to fill in some ravines on property they own out in the Lennox area. That's what they told us today. So yes, the high bid was $283, the next bid was $238, and they came in at $133. All right, any other questions? All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda, report from Alderman. Mr. Baltimore?
Mayor, have you heard anything about, have y'all decided when we're gonna bring up the vendor's permit again?
Business permit?
Yes.
I don't know what you're, I don't know what you're asking me.
Vendors, you remember the vendors came in here,
Transient vendors?
We were gonna revisit in 6 months. We're close to it being up. Thomas and I have talked about that, Mr. Baltimore. He's got some information. He's out of town this week. I think he said he would be at the next board meeting to answer any questions we had about that.
I've heard a lot of people call me about it, so that's the reason I want to ask them.
Okay.
We built a new church in Humboldt, Tennessee, and I want to invite you all to come. It's the 27th of October is the new grand opening for it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And we'd like for y'all to come if you have an opportunity to come. It's at 701 West Main Street, Humboldt, Tennessee, right down the street from the fire department.
Okay, thank you. Edward?
Yes, I got one thing. Last year, I know the board in 2018 approved Noresco to help the city with some possible future energy savings. No contract was left, for the election, so, and I think Brian Stone with Noresco came to a finance committee meeting back in June, and we looked at some information, and we were gonna discuss it at a later time. And I think Brian has contacted several board members wanting to have a meeting, so I'm just gonna ask, you think it'd be beneficial for us to meet with someone from Dyersburg Electric to look at possible energy savings before we met with Brian Stone, or just go ahead and meet with Brian?
It's whatever the committee wants to do. It matters not to me.
Well, could you talk to Dyersburg Electric and see if they can come to a finance committee meeting, and
Sure.
you could call and see if they have any suggestions for LED lighting or whatever before we meet with Brian Stone.
Okay,
That's all I had.
all right, thank you. Coach Cole?
Yes. A couple days ago, I sent out a photo to the department head about tires that needed to be picked up. The residents of the Westgate community, you used to have a bin there to put tires in. I spoke with the county, and they were the ones who were operating it, and they moved it. But we still have tires left on that property they own. So I'm wondering what the city's position is on tires. I know we have an area on 78 down at the bluff that we can take tires, but a lot of people can't get there. So is it any other program, any other policy we have in place for removal of those tires?
The city does not. It's my understanding that's a county responsibility for the removal of tires. They did have a trailer there behind the old Dyer County Central Building. I know not why they moved it. I don't know where they moved it to. I think that'd be a question of the county and John Pleasant as their building official. Be more than happy to contact John Pleasant to see what their plans are, how we could collaborate to take care of that.
I know he told me, Mr. Pleasant said that the sheriff department at one time. So
Sheriff Department picks them up.
at one time they were picking them up, so
Are they still picking them up?
nope, no one's picking them up.
Okay. I'll be more than happy to call them and have a discussion with them.
Thank you. And Thomas is not here, but I'd like to thank him, and shout out to him for helping me out at the code enforcement in our community.
Okay? Thank you, and I'll pass out the code enforcement report for the month of September. You'll see the numbers there. All right, Megan?
I only had a question about our packets. I wasn't able to pick mine up between 12:30 and 5 on Friday because I was working. Is there any chance of having them emailed?
They are?
I never received mine via email.
The agenda?
No, I get the agenda. I just mean the entire packet. That's not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Now, Lauren sent that to you Friday, right? She made copies and sent that all to you Friday?
She had taken pictures of the documents because she stated that she did not have them all on her computer, and so I just wondered if there was a reason that we weren't able to do that by chance.
I don't know. I'll find out, though. All right. Anything else? Anything else?
No, thank you.
Ricky?
The grant for the trail, Jenny Bell, once it's demoed, I've seen where we've applied for it. Any timeline on when we might hear something?
I think at the bottom, that purchasing thing gives you a timeline that Greg sent out. Do you have that?
Early 2020, wasn't it?
What's it
It's
say?
gonna be 2020.
Yeah,
What is it?
It's 20. It's 20.
I see it.
Blue Cross Blue Shield Healthy Place Grant has been submitted for the development of a walking trail. Announcement of grant awards is expected in the first quarter of 2020. Yep.
Thank you.
Mary Claire?
I was just going to reiterate what Edward said about us getting together, about discuss the NORESCO and hopefully getting together with the Finance Committee. Thank you.
Okay. Dennis? Vanetta?
I also would like to see us get together, but, with the finance committee and discuss, what our options are and look into some things. But on another note, on behalf of the board and as a very grateful mother, I'd like to thank, Chief Isbell and all his staff, all the men and women that are part of the Dyersburg PD and the, law enforcement community in Dyer County, for their prompt and appropriate response to Dyersburg High School. Thank you for keeping our students safe.
Thank you. Anything else? Anything else? No? I'd like to reiterate that. Chief, thank you, men and women of the police department, for what you did almost 2 weeks ago, Wednesday. Appreciate that very much, and prompt, efficient, did a great job. Thank you. I mentioned earlier, I passed out the September code enforcement report. That's also been put on our social media platforms. With that, we're adjourned. Recreation Committee, after this, down front. Thank you.